Hello, 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 Facebook land. How are you all? I hope you're well. I've just come off the live on Instagram, which was quite fun. and yes, and now I'm with you guys. So I know it takes some time before Facebook tells everybody that I'm going live. So I am going to crack on because I'm not one to wait around and say, oh, I'm going to wait 5 minutes and blah, blah, blah. Hi, Ivona. Good to see you. I was just muttering to myself, saying that I've just come off the live on Instagram, which was fun. And now I'm with you guys. So I was just giving it a few seconds for Facebook to alert everybody that I'm going live. Hurrah! So I hope you had a good day, and yeah, I hope to be done within the hour. I did the hour on Instagram, so whew, thank goodness. And I've got my trusty notes with me, as always, so that we're not going to be here all night. It's funny, I feel a lot more relaxed here on Facebook. On Instagram, because it's an hour specifically. If you're not done by the hour, then Instagram just cuts you off. But I feel a lot more relaxed here because I know I can go on for hours and hours, I think, but it won't happen. Anyway, so welcome those of you going to watch the replay as well. And the topic I'm speaking about today is mental health, taking away the stigma and shame of stress, depression and burnout. Good. I'm glad you had a very good day, Ivona. I think there might be a bit of a delay. So, yeah. So that's what we're talking about. As I mentioned on the previous live, if anything happens in terms of a power cut or something happens on social media and the live goes down, I will come back on. Okay, so don't worry about that. These things happen, as we know. Technology, we're in the hands of technology, so this is why I prefer live, offline, one-to-one, at least then you have some relative control. Okay, Ivona says, I'm more relaxed on Facebook. Yeah, me too. Yeah. Okay, right, so that's the topic. Right, so let me start from the top. Who am I? For those of you who will be watching this video for the first time, you don't know who I am, you've never seen me, you never heard of me. My name is Lillian Larty. I'm a holistic health and well-being teacher. I'm also a transformation and personal development coach. I've been working in the health, fitness, wellness industry it's coming up to 21 years. But it still seems like it was yesterday that I qualified. I love what I do. I love anything to do with health, fitness and well-being. It's in my blood, and I'm sure it always will be. Sometimes I get to the points where I'm just like, now I'm done with it. But then I just get a new wave of inspiration, and I just love helping people who are in an ill state, whether that's mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and see them shift through to being phenomenally amazing in their minds, in their bodies, and in themselves as well. And that's all part of Get My Life Back. Why I created this new project is that getting your life back to living in a way that is aligned to you. Because we're used to following what society says and does, or what we see out there. And the way that people are living is not necessarily well aligned for the way that we need to live, which then in turn hampers on our health and well-being and causes things like the chronic stress, the mental ill health, the depression, the burnout, all of which I'm going to speak about on this live today. So have some pen and paper. You might want to take some notes. And if you've got any questions, pop them in the box. I'll answer them after. And yeah, and I'll share other things as well. So that's who I am and what I do. So yes, I work predominantly with women because those are the ones who reach out to me for help. But I know I do have some male followers on this page. So men, you are absolutely welcome. And what I'm not about is, I'm not about doing some big campaign and razzmatazz and things like that, and you know, selling you into big programs and things like that. I don't do that. My purpose and my fulfillment comes from working with people in an intimate setting, one-to-one, where I can help you shift out of that ill state, whatever that ill state is, and helping you to align to be the most amazing, phenomenal person you can be in your life. That's my purpose, that's my work. And I do that through the position of your body, how your body is health-wise, how your mind is health-wise. And that's what I'm about. I'm very simple. I don't have a group that I will move you into. You know, I don't do things like that, because that's just, it takes away my energy and it creates a lot of stress for me personally, knowing who I am. So I prefer to reserve that energy for my work that I do with my clients, rather than worrying about other unnecessary things. Anyway, just thought I'd add that in. So, obviously says my connection is a bit weird, so apologies if I'm on off. Oh yeah, no worries. No worries, that's technology. Hey Mary! Good to see you, Mary, in the land of the living now, of technology, Facebook and social media. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so let me crack on. So what we're going to share today, so why am I sharing this? Mental health, taking away the stigma and shame of stress, depression and burnout. Why am I sharing this? Well, not only is it Mental Health Awareness Week, and the theme is kindness, but I'm also sharing this because I desire for us women to have a lot more open communication about depression, about chronic stress, about burnout, about how we're suffering. It's not fair on particularly us women. It really isn't. And I really want to see us open up more about these conversations, and also to give ourselves permission as women to speak out and say when it's enough, when it's too hard, when we can't cope, you know, because it's women are still being silenced, particularly in certain industries, in certain cultures. Hi Takombo, hi Ariane, thank you for joining. Women are still being silenced, and they're suffering in silence. They're suffering in silence about stress, feeling stressed, feeling depressed, and burnt out. So, so this is why I received the download to share this message with you all, you lovely women, today. So, I'm going to be sharing my experience and journey of overcoming depression, chronic stress, and burnout. How we can recognize the signs and the root causes in ourselves and in others, and what to do about it. How we can remove the stigma and shame of stress, depression and burnout, and how kindness, which is this year's theme, can help our mental and emotional health and well-being. So like I said earlier, if you haven't got pen and paper, grab some pen and paper. You might want to take notes. You're going to want to watch this live again. It will be up. Praise the Lord that Instagram, it's saved to my IGTV. I've now got an IGTV channel. Whereas before it just didn't happen. So it's also on the replay there as well if you want to rewatch the lives. Okay, so I'm going to be fully transparent on this live about my experience. You might be a bit shocked because I'm going to share things that I haven't shared openly on social media. I don't think I've shared it openly on social media. Well, I have now on Instagram, and I will do here. And also to for you to take one thing that you can take away with you today, that you can apply and help yourself to move forward. If you are depressed, if you do find yourself in chronic stressful moments consistently, if you are on edge and you're on that edge of burnout, I want you to take one thing away from the live today that you can start to apply into your life, that will help you to feel better. I'm just going to grab my water, which is up on my table. It's funny, whenever I do a live on Facebook, when I do a scheduled live, I get like a throat, And this happened from earlier this afternoon. So I just know that this is important. This is an important share. I mean, last time I was coughing, wasn't I? But this time I've got a bit of a throat, so I don't know what's going on. But anyway, hi Judy, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Okay, so let's get started. So number one, mental health, taking away the stigma and shame of stress, depression, and burnout. Number one, so I'm going to talk about my journey. So my first experience of depression. So I was brought up here in the UK, and where I was brought up, here. It's Croydon, near South London. But when I went to school, there was only a handful of black people in the school. So you can imagine being brought up in the 70s, around that time, there was still a lot of racism going on. And all I ever heard at school was, we don't like you because you're black. You can't do this because you're black. I can't play with you. My mum told me I can't play with you because you're black. And just being picked on by teachers, by my peers, being left out, especially at PE. I really hated PE because I knew I'd always be the last one picked in the team sports. And it was a tough time. It really was tough. And the thing that I remember the most is that my stomach was always constantly churning. Always, because I was in that stress state at such a young age. Imagine, such a young age, you're in this fight or flight, freeze response. And it was a case of survival. I was basically in survival each and every day. And it wasn't a case of me going home and complaining to my parents and for them to come down and, you know, tell the teachers what was going on, because they were going through their own racial trauma as well in their places of work and basically in everyday life. You know, we could walk down the road and someone would shout out a rude word, you know. And that was life back then. And like I said, it was tough. So those words stuck with me. You're not wanted, we don't want you, we don't like you, you're black, etc., etc. Okay? And so those words stuck with me. So, you know, you just swallow, you get on with it, and you go. Hi, Hannah. Thanks for joining. You just get on and you go on with life. So going on into teenage years, school, college, etc. And it wasn't until around age 18, 19 that I started to experience bouts of depression. And when I say bouts of depression, I'm talking like really low, what I can just describe as degrading moments where it's like I didn't want to live, I didn't know who I was, I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere, not even in my family. I just felt like an imposter. And I went to my doctors and I said, because I just kept getting these thoughts. And imagine having each day, it's like you're wearing a helmet or a cone or something, and someone is constantly banging on this pan around your head, this loud noise, and it's just like this. Your thoughts are just going like this, in, out, in, out, in, out. You're no good, you're nothing, nobody wants you, you're hopeless, you can't succeed, etc., etc. You're black, blah, blah, blah. All of that constantly, every day. And at that point, when I was about 18, 19, I think my mind had just had enough. My body was starting to react as well. So I went to my doctors and told him what was happening. I was feeling down and, oh, thank you, Hannah. I was feeling down and that, you know, I just wanted to speak to someone. So the doctor said, well, do you want to speak to a psychiatrist? And I said, I'm not sure. And the reason why I hesitated was because my dad worked in the psychiatry field. He was a psychiatric nurse in a well-known hospital called Tooting Bec Hospital. It's now closed down and it's off the site. They've now built houses over that site. And for his own daughter to have a psychiatric problem, that would be shameful, you know. So I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, is my dad going to find out? Is my mum going to find out? That was what was in my mind. So I reluctantly said yes to the doctor. So he referred me to a psychiatrist. I went to see the psychiatrist. It was a male psychiatric doctor. And I went for the appointment and I told him all that was going on with me. and how I was feeling. So he listened to me, and then he looked at me, and then he said, you know what you need to do? I was like, no. He said, you need to buck up your ideas. You need to do as you're told. And you need to do as you're told as what your parents tell you. And just go on and blah, 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 whatever else it was that he said. And I just looked at him like, it was like he was telling me off. And I just thought, what? I just didn't know what to say. I was so surprised. So, and then he rolled up to his desk and he said, so what do you want me to do? Do you want medication? And I said, no, I came here because I wanted to speak to somebody. And anyway, I left that appointment. I didn't bother follow up with the doctor, and just carried on with life the best way that I knew how to. So, and around that time, I had gone on to the hormonal pill as well for my periods, because I used to have really painful periods. So it was recommended that I go on a hormonal pill. I'll share more on that later. So I was going on about life into my 20s, and then, you know, finding different things to do, things that would take away those oppressive thoughts from my mind. I did lots of reading about thoughts, about minds, and this is where I came across personal development, learning about personal development, because I wanted to find out who I really was. And that's what led me into the world of personal development, becoming qualified as a personal development coach. So I went on through my 20s, but the more I learned about personal development, I still had these nagging thoughts in my head day in, day out. And it just got worse as I got into my 30s. Now, going back to my mid-20s, yeah, terrible treatment by I'm telling you, really terrible treatment. I don't think you'll experience anything like that now, but back then, it was another story. Back into my middle 20s, I had gone out for the morning, I'd gone out, and I used to suffer with bouts of fitness of crying. So I could be anywhere, and then I would just cry. Someone would say something to me, and I would be hypersensitive, and I would just cry. It was terrible, yeah. And then one day I went out, I came home, and I knelt in my bedroom because I had just had enough. I was like at my lowest point that I can ever remember. And I remember kneeling down on the floor, looking at both my wrists, and I heard two voices. The first voice said to me, well, all you need to do is just cut your wrists quickly, just slit them, and it will all be over and done with. Because I had suicidal thoughts. So I didn't want to live. I just wanted to kill myself. I just wanted to be off this earth. And then the second voice that I heard said, if you trust me, I will show you the way to live better. Now, I believe that second voice was the voice of God. That's my belief. And I'm still here. I'm here to tell the tale. I'm alive. I'm well. And so I chose to listen to the second voice, obviously. And so I just got on with life. So I thought, okay, you're going to show me a better way to live. So what do I do? And it was there in my mid-20s. That's when I started to get more into the personal development and reading the books and trying to figure out my mind, the battlefield that was going on in my mind. How do I stop these thoughts, and how do I try to be positive? So I started to do positive affirmations and speak positively to myself, and that worked to an extent. And then some days it didn't, and then someone said, oh, you know, I can help you, and then I did a bit of spiritual healing, and that helped to an extent. And then I found a friend that I could confide in and really say to him, look, this is what I'm going through. I'm still suffering with depression. I'm still suffering with these suicidal thoughts. I just, you know, I was just feeling helpless and hopeless. And it wasn't until age 39, 40 when I burnt out from stress. Now, the burning out from stress was a repercussion of pushing myself, working hard. By this time, I had left sort of mainstream work in organisations, and I was in the health, fitness, wellness industry full time, so working for myself. I loved what I did. I was working 12+ hour days. I was teaching like high impact classes like cycling, aerobics, aqua aerobics, really high impact stuff. So it took a lot of pressure and a lot of stress and energy from my body. But then on top of that was these thoughts that were still going on, that I had to prove myself, because remember, I still hadn't dealt with the root cause of my depression. I was just kind of dealing with the symptoms of it. So, but the root cause for me, which I'll expand on in a bit, was that I felt very insignificant, and the voices of nobody wants to know, you're black, you can't succeed, everybody hates you, blah. So those were the little voices that was driving me to try and succeed and to prove myself and to be one step ahead of everything and all that was going on. But eventually, when the mind gets to a place where it's so suppressed and intoxicated, whatever we think in our mind represents and will play out in our bodies. And that's how disease happens. So all the feelings of depression was coming from the thoughts. And in turn, all that depression was impacting my body in terms of stress and then eventually burnout. Now, burnout is when your body just is kaput. Your body has no energy, no strength. One day I just woke up and I couldn't get out of bed. I had brain fog. I couldn't think clearly and my body just ached. It was like I was wearing an armor, okay? And so I burnt out. So then I went in search of, and I knew about burnout because it's well known in the health fitness industry. A lot of instructors burn out from doing too much from stress. So I thought, oh my goodness, it's affected me now. So I went in search of a solution for this. And I came across a phenomenal teacher on nutrition. And this is where I learned more about my nutrition and alkaline lifestyle. So taking that on board and learning to eat in a different way and learning a different lifestyle as well. And prior to that, having to cut down my classes. I had to close 2 of my, because at the time I was running 3 busy massage clinics. I had a number of personal training clients. I had a number of classes that I was teaching. And because I didn't teach and my body just couldn't, I had to cut most of that away. So I was left with 1 massage clinic and just a couple of classes, but eventually I just stopped teaching the classes altogether. So it was a matter of me pulling back and doing less. But when you work for yourself, as a majority of you know who are on here, I know you work for yourselves or you're working in jobs, you know, we've got to keep the money coming in somehow. So when I embarked on this alkaline eating, alkaline lifestyle, no lie, within 7 days, it was like I was a new person. It was like a light shone. It was like the heaviness of the depression just lifted. The brain fog just went. My head was clearer. It was like I couldn't hear those negative thoughts anymore. So many things. The energy levels came back. Within 7 days. And bearing in mind, I'd suffered with depression for 20 years. So from about age 18 through to about age 40. Yeah. Because 40 was when I burnt out. And for me, that was my saving grace. Okay. But then going on after that, and carrying on and working as self-employed, running my own business, etc. I was still working hard. I was still rushing around and living a stressful lifestyle. I was still putting myself under pressure. I had this pattern because it was a developed pattern in me. The thing is, our bodies have memories. Our cells have memory. So anything that we think about gets stored in the body. Any emotions that we have get stored in the body. So I still had that pattern in me because I hadn't dealt with the depression. I hadn't dealt with the trauma of the racial trauma, because there was a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, jealousy, you name it. There was a lot of it which I hadn't dealt with because, you know, when you're told to, well, you just got to get on with it. You just got to get that. That's just life. You just got to get on with it. You learn how to cope, and you cope by suppressing those emotions. Okay. So all of that was still in me. So I was still driving myself hard. I was still working hard until 2018 when I had the health crisis. Now, most of you know about my story of the health crisis. My body just imploded, went into hospital. My blood pressure is normally normal, considered to be a healthy person. Went into hospital with massive heart palpitations, painful chest, my heart beating really strong and hard, painful headaches, feeling weakness in my legs, just feeling totally, definitely unwell. By the time they checked me into hospital, my blood pressure was 201 over 107. Doctors and nurses were doing so many checks on me. They were just looking at me like, what is going on with you? You know, my thyroid was really hyper. I had no iron in me at all, so they had to pump me with ferritin. What else? There were some other things as well. And then they ended up putting me on, I say a whole load of medication, but 3 lots of medications, which 2 of, I'm off now completely, hurrah, through the protocol that I've been doing. And I'm looking to get off this last one as well. And through the health crisis, I learnt how to heal in a different way. Because I was asking, how did I get here again? Have I not learnt from the burnout that I suffered with back then? And it was like, and I had to start seeing that every health crisis that I'd suffered with was a gift for me to learn more about the body, to learn more about health, to learn more about how to heal in a way that I would never have learned, you know, in any institution or on any course. This is life experience that I was learning. So my train of thought was, well, 1, I've got to get out of this hospital as soon as possible. And 2, I've got to get off this medication because I know what medication does to the body. But it was like I was being told, no, what you're going to do is you're going to rest. And you're just going to take it one day at a time. And that was new for me because I was not used to resting at all. I was someone that I always had to be doing something. So sitting still and resting was just like, but I knew that's what my body and my soul needed at the time. So it was a new way of living, a new way of being. And by resting and learning new protocols of healing, like meditation, like stillness, eating in a different way. So I was eating, as well as eating alkaline, I had to up level my nutrients because of what happened with my body. I went back because for around the age of, in my early teens through to about, even now, I've never eaten meat, like as in red meat, and I stopped eating chicken from about age 20. And then all of a sudden with this health crisis, I was told, I just got this sense in, I need to start eating chicken again. I was like, oh. So I started eating chicken, but that's been part of my healing protocol. And there were other things that I needed to do as well, so which I'll share later. So all of that to say that that has been my journey and my experience of chronic stress, of depression, of burnout. And it's no joke. And I'm not the only one going through it. There are many women who are going through it, but they're staying silent. Not out of choice, but because of fear of shame, because of being stigmatized as being weak, as, you know, well, you're a woman, you should be able to cope with this. What's all this? And, you know, I mean, you go and talk to a man about your monthly, you know, they're running away, that, you know, they don't want to know, you know. And it was like, you know, women are being oppressed in a different type of way to stay silent. In certain industries, if you're working in a construction industry, for instance, the masculine, what we call the masculine industries, you know, where it's, you've got to match your, I mean, forget about even being in your feminine. You've got to match their masculinity, you know, in order to be seen that you can handle your job and you can do it well. Otherwise, you're kind of out, or they'll trample on you. And it's not good for us women to do that. And there are a lot of women in those type of industries who burn out very quickly. Even women who are in CEO positions, head of organizations, leaders, female leaders, those who run their own businesses are burning out but because of what we portray on social media, that I'm successful, I'm having a good life, and everything is well with me. Hey, you know, women are feeling ashamed to post up and say, you know what? I'm not having a good day. I'm not having a good time. I'm not having a good life. This is what I'm suffering with. Because it's seen as, oh, I don't want to be seen as the weakest link. It's shameful. I shouldn't be like this. And we put such heavy conditions on ourselves that that is what is oppressing us and keeping us silent. And I want to change all of that. I'm telling you now, ladies, I want to change that. I want to see women come out a lot more and speak openly about what they're suffering with, their mental ill states, their emotional ill states. And let's do something about this, because it's part of everyday life. But it doesn't have to be this way. We have a choice not to live this way. We have a choice not to be this way. But we will suffer in silence if we remain silent. Judy says, you're not weak, you're very strong. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Judy. You know, and that's another thing. I remember back in the 90s, or definitely in the 2000s, when there was a lot of, you know, black independence or independent woman. Yeah, we have to be independent women. We have to be strong. We have to be seen to be doing this. We can hold our own. We don't need men. We can do A, B, and C. And where has it got us? Okay, we've made some room in some mainstream organizations and in some industries, you know, where women normally wouldn't have positions. Okay, however, that has come at a cost for many women in terms of their health and their well-being. Sad to say, it has. So I'm not really one for the women being strong and powerful and empowering women to be stronger. I'm not that at all. Because I see firsthand what happens to women when they're in that position. I see them burn out. I see them come to me in tears. I see women come to me and say, Lillian, I was on my way to a job that I hate and I collapsed on the way. I see women come to me who are on umpteen amounts of medication, which they don't need to be on, because they're pushing themselves and they're living, trying to be strong and cope and keep everything running and going. Even if they have partners, you know, there's still this high expectation that you have to show up as a strong woman. So let's drop that and let's just be in our feminine selves as women who are meant to be, because that is what's going to serve our health and well-being at the end of the day. Takomba, you say, I talk to my sons about, sorry, I'm shifting so that I can see the words, about monthlies and menopause. They don't want to hear it. But I don't stop. Good for you. It's helping them understand women and to respect us. Yeah, men need to know. They really, really do. And, you know, if, you know, your sons go on to have daughters, you know, how are they going to help them if they don't know? You know? Oh, my character. Oh, okay. Thank you, Judy. Ivona says, yes, I remember those days of independence. Yeah. Takombo says, yes, very true. Women have sacrificed so much. We have. Okay, so that's been my journey, ladies. And that's how basically I overcame. I overcame by doing mindset work, by healing, releasing the repressed, oppressive emotions, taking refuge in personal development. With my burnout, like I said, you know, I healed through nutrition, learning food management, which also helped with the depression recovery as well, exercising less, improving my gut health, because there is what we call the gut-brain connection. If your gut, your digestive system is not in a great state, if you've got too much bacteria, bad bacteria growth, that can impact your mindset, your brain, and that's another subject for another day. But that's where the brain fog comes from. That also contributes towards depression as well. Love what you're sharing, Ivona says, thank you. Judy says, I don't believe in a strong, independent woman. Great. Yeah, definitely. We need to chuck that out, because it's not serving us women. It just doesn't help us at all. Yeah. yeah, so yeah, and then choosing to work differently, to work with less physical stress and pressure, and also knowing how to manage my stress in line with me. Yeah, because there are different ways of managing stress, but choosing to do it in a way in line with me. Um, so that's been my journey. Now, how can we recognize signs and root causes in ourselves and in others? And ladies, remember, if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments. I will answer them. And I may at some point need to turn the light on because it's getting a little bit dark here. So how can we recognize the signs? So first of all, look at repeated patterns in yourself and in others. Trace when they first started. So like I mentioned, for me, my regular pattern and the symptom was feeling insignificant, which is what was my driver. That is what drove me to succeed, to push, to be ahead, to be in survival mode, basically. And that little voice is saying, nobody wants to hear what you're saying, you're black, you're no good, this, that, etc., etc. Okay, that was my driver. All right. So then that became my emotions, my thoughts, my character. And then that's what impacted my health and well-being. I'll explain more about that later. So signs of depression. Now it's different for everyone. These are some of the signs that I suffered with when I was in depressive state. And these are signs that you can look out for in others as well. You know what? I'm going to turn the light on because it's getting a little bit dark here and I need to see my notes as well. So excuse me 1 second. That's better. And then there was light. Yay! Hi, Betty. Thanks for joining. Okay, so signs of depression, as I was saying, it's different for everybody. So, but these are the ones really to look out for, maybe in yourself and in others as well. Feeling lethargic, unexplainable tiredness during the day. You know, you just feel tired, and it's more the tiredness is coming from your mind rather than a physical tiredness. Procrastination, you put off doing things because it's just like it's just too much like hard work, you know. You have this desire to sleep during the day because things feel hard. You're just like, oh, it's too hard, you know what, I just want to go to bed and sleep and just sleep it off and pretend like it's not there. Other signs and symptoms, brain fog. Now, when I say brain fog, I mean your mind just feels like it's been saturated and covered. You just can't think clearly. That's brain fog. It just feels like a heaviness. Mood swings, feeling lifeless, hopeless, helpless, and in some cases bored as well. You feel bored, but you can't put your finger on it. Feeling irritable and unhappy. You have bouts of crying fits. You want to hide. So, and sometimes you feel like you're in a tunnel as well. Feeling numb and careless, like you just don't care. You know, you can get up, you know, things are unkept in the house and you don't look after yourself well, that type of thing. You suffer with low immune system as well. You feel stiff and achy, and this is non-exercise stiff and achy. So it's just that you just have these general aches and pains constantly. You feel heavy. You have no appetite for food, or you go to the other extreme and you have cravings. And when you do eat, you tend to go for sweet, sugary, high-fat carb foods, drinks and alcohol, because these are protective mechanisms. They're comforts as well. You're forgetful. You have trouble sleeping or sleeping too much for longer. So you may say, oh, I'm going to have a lie-in. A lie-in is different from sleeping the whole weekend. Yeah. And I know women who have done that, where they've just been depressed the whole week, held their job together, held their lives together, and then come the weekend, they just sleep throughout the weekend. They don't go out. They don't do anything. So you just want to sleep your life away, basically. Another symptom is lack of concentration. You just can't concentrate. You have either drastic weight loss or drastic weight gain. Okay, these are some of the signs of depression. Do you recognize them in some of yourself, in some of those symptoms in yourself? Maybe you might recognize them in people that you know. Signs and symptoms of chronic stress can be constantly feeling overwhelmed, unrested, tense, wound up, frustrated. So you're always constantly sort of like this. Tense jaw, tense neck and shoulders. You may find yourself grinding your teeth or clenching your teeth. Even if you're working, you may find that you're clenching your teeth all the time. You may catch yourself grinding your teeth at night. This is a sign of chronic stress. Constant anxious feelings of trying to keep ahead of yourself or to keep up. Feeling frazzled, exhausted, frenzied or wired. So you're just constantly sort of, it's like you're constantly alert, you know, like you're looking for danger and that type of thing. And you don't ever feel relaxed in yourself. You're constantly hyper and it's like, oh, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What am I doing? You're just constantly like that. Another sign of chronic stress is you have a busy mind. You're constantly thinking thoughts. Your mind never switches off. You have trouble sleeping or interrupted sleep. Your stomach constantly feels like it's knotted in knots. You have a tight chest. You probably suffer with heart palpitations, have high blood pressure, forgetfulness, cravings, as I've mentioned before, but more so with chronic stress, cravings for caffeine. Because when you're in a chronic state of stress, your adrenal glands, which sit on top of your kidneys, are constantly pumping out the hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, and there's some other hormones as well. And the more they do that, the more they raise insulin, and the more then your body says, we need energy to keep you going, because your stress state is elevated. Your hormones need to be released, so we need energy for that. So then your body and your brain connect, and it says, well, your brain is part of your body, but it signals, your body signals to your brain that we need energy and we need it now. So then you get the temptation or the craving to go for these high fat, carb, sugary foods like the cakes, the donuts, the wine, the alcohol, the coffee during the day because you feel tired and you need something to perk you up. Even tea's got caffeine, chocolate's got caffeine in it, and cakes and all sorts of things, crisps. So you might find, ladies, and I hear this a lot, that you will find you need coffee in first thing in the morning to get you going. You need coffee maybe in the afternoon because you feel like you're getting that afternoon slump. You may find at the end of the day, because I've had a hard day, that you turn to the alcohol, you turn to the sugary foods, the chocolate, the comfort foods, the ice cream, the whatever. It's your body's way of restoring itself and coping because you've been in that high level of stress. Okay, Takombo says she has to leave. You're welcome, Takombo. Thanks for joining. And I saw some other comments before as well. Ivana says, I felt low the other day. So if this lowness continued, would that lead to depression? That's a very good question. It depends what the root cause is, which I'm going to cover. So when I cover the root cause, that might give you the answer. So it's possible that yes, it can do. Especially if it tends to happen quite frequently, it can do. Judy says, I sometimes feel down, sometimes in present circumstances, but never depressed, thanks heavens. Yeah, there's a difference between depressed and feeling low. With feeling low, you know that it's attached to what the circumstance is, okay? With depression, it's a chemical imbalance that has happened over a period of time. And that chemical imbalance can be brought about by an external stimulus in terms of you've been taking certain things like malnutrition, you've been malnutritioned, you've been taking medication, which I'll share about, which connects me to the pill, which I was talking about as well. Or it can be some type of oppression. But because, like for me, in my situation, I had that oppression since childhood. So I've been in a constant state of stress since age 4 or 5, as early as I can remember when I was at school. So my body had created itself in a way to be in fight, flight or freeze response mode constantly. So then that changed the pattern of my brain and the pattern of my chemicals as well, and the way that they were released. So I wasn't just low, I was depressed. You feel depression, you just feel dragged down physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. You're just like hopeless, helpless, and just like, I don't want to know, I just want to check out, can't cope type of thing. Feeling low is like, yeah, I feel low about this, I don't feel good about this, you know, but I know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, or I know there's a situation, there's a solution somewhere. So that's the difference. I hope that helps. Definitely experienced stress more recently, perhaps not chronic stress. Okay. Mary says, eye-opening, thanks for sharing this. You're welcome, Mary. You're welcome. So yeah, more with the chronic stress. So suppressed immune system. So you'll find that you'll get what I call phantom allergies or illnesses or infections. You know, all of a sudden you know, you've never had asthma before. Now you've got asthma. You've never had hay fever. Now you've got hay fever. There's so many things. You come out in rashes, or I don't know, something just happens, unexplainable, that happens to you, and you think, well, why is this happening? That's a sign of chronic stress. And also trying to control what's around you. It's like you just have this nervousness about you, and you've got to be in control of things. Yeah. And it's just like, no, that's got to be in place, or this has got to do this, and you're just trying to control things. Okay, signs of burnout. So all that I've mentioned before, plus you're unable to function at full capacity. So you feel weak in your body. Remember what I said, when I burnt out, I couldn't get out of bed. I just felt really weak and heavy. So you're unable to operate at full capacity. Again, unexplainable ill symptoms, difficulty thinking, the brain fog, you're feeling on edge, you're just the slightest thing, you just, I don't quite know how to describe it, but you just feel scared, you just feel on edge all the time. Chronic fatigue, you can have illnesses like chronic fatigue, Addison's disease, which is where the adrenals reach the state where they're depleted of adrenaline and cortisol. The body can only produce so much of certain hormones in our lifetime. And for a lot of women who reach that place of burnout, where thankfully for me, I didn't reach that place of Addison's disease, but I have clients who had. And that is where your kidneys, it affects your kidneys and it affects your adrenal glands. And your adrenal glands can no longer produce the right amounts or no amount of cortisol and adrenaline. Now, some people say, well, that must be a good thing if you're stressed. But no, we need the hormones cortisol and adrenaline to help with other functions in the body. So it's not a good thing. And then what happens is with Addison's disease, when you get that, they start to give you injections of cortisol. I'm not sure about the adrenaline, but I know back then when I was helping my clients, the one who had the Addison's disease, she was getting, they were looking at putting her on some type of therapy for that, and it ain't pretty, it's not good at all. And then you've got other symptoms, diseases like fibromyalgia is a classic case of burnout. Lyme's disease is a classic case of burnout as well. Chronic fatigue as well, and there are other things. And then, of course, you've got your mental dysfunction, memory loss, and in some cases, for some women, having temporary psychosis. Psychosis is a mental ill health, and that can happen as a result of burnout as well. So those are just some of the signs. I hope you're all okay with what I'm sharing so far. You're not going to hear this on your average live, are you? Okay, so what are the root causes? What are the root causes of the chronic stress, the burnout, the depression? As I said, for me, the depression and the stress and the burnout, the health crisis, those are just the symptoms of the root cause. So think of like a plant. when you've got a plant, you've got the roots, okay? Without the roots being there, the plant won't survive, okay? So if your plant is, you know, the soil is drying up or the plant is looking all shriveled or something, sometimes you can treat the plant itself at the top layer of the soil, but at times you need to see what's going on at the root of the plant in order for the plant to flourish. And this is what we do with ill symptoms of mental health and our emotional health as well. So remember, for me, I said to you, my root cause was feeling insignificant due to racial trauma. But for some people that I've worked with, their root cause has been not feeling good about themselves, not feeling, I mean, there's this common statement now, not feeling enough. Well, what does that mean? Well, if we break it down, it's basically feeling a need to be worthy. Okay, they're not feeling worthy, their self-worth is low. There's a need to prove yourself, to be accepted. There's a need to please people. And other things, a need to be loved, a need to belong. And all of these are our root causes of why we feel depressed, chronically stressed, or burnt out. Now, these all create stress and strain, okay? And this is what causes us to push ourselves, to strive, to work hard to the point of exhaustion and burnout. I mean, I remember working with one lady in one organisation and she was burnt out. She had just acquired a new role as a manager of our team. And she felt that she had to prove herself because she was of a certain age. And in her mind, it was, well, you're of a certain age, you know, there are people younger than you who would want your job like tomorrow if you don't do it well. So that is what was driving her. She always stayed late behind. She was always the first one in at work. And she hardly took breaks. She ate at her desk. She ate her lunch at her desk. She had her tea, everything at her desk. She hardly moved. The only time she moved was to go to the toilet. And in order for her to have a holiday, we had to force her to go on holiday, you know. And so much so she got to a point where she was just coming down with these different bugs and flus and colds and things like that, but she was still coming to work. She wouldn't rest. And then she came to a point where her eyes were just so bloodshot, and it was scary. And I just thought, oh my goodness. I mean, I didn't know then what I know now, but I just thought this woman is not in a good way at all. Anyway, it got to the point, so much so that she rang up and she didn't come into work because, you know, she said, oh, I was feeling unwell and blah, blah, blah. And that time, taking that time off turned into, I think she was off in total for about 3 months because she had burnt out. And that's what happens. That's what happens to us women if we don't take care of ourselves and we don't deal with the root cause. So the cause is not the pushing, it's not the striving. That is a result of the root cause. The cause is not the depression, it's not the chronic stress, it's not the worry, it's not the this, it's not the that. So going back to your question, Ivona, of, you know, the episodes of feeling low and stuff, if it happens frequently and the root cause is what's happening in your thoughts up here and the belief that is going on, pay attention to that. So as I mentioned before, looking at the root causes and the signs, we need to look at the patterns. What are the constant patterns? So how often are we going into these depressive or these low states? How often are we... I mean, it's really difficult now for people to say, well, I feel stressed, because it's like people are saying, well, stress is normal. Everybody's stressed, you know. So people they don't know. Unless you go into your body and you understand what stress actually feels like, most people are in a stressful state right now. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Because we're not resting enough, we're not taking time out, we're not dealing with the unprocessed emotions, we're not dealing with our thought life, and we're listening to the little voices of having to constantly be on the go. We have conditions to live up to, so many things. So we're constantly in a stress state. So we don't know what it's like to feel relaxed. We don't know what it's like to feel loose and restful. we don't know what that is until you reach that place where you're either forced to rest and be relaxed, or you come to the point and say, well, hold on a minute. Yeah, some of the symptoms that Lillian was talking about, actually, that's what I'm suffering with. And know that it's not normal. It is not normal. It's common, yes, but it's not normal and it's not healthy for us at all. So, the root cause, another root cause. So the first root cause is how you're feeling, the voices, the messages that you were brought up with, what's driving you. Okay. The next root cause is, as I mentioned, the external stimulus. So for me, the external stimulus, as I mentioned, was about me being on the pill. Now, it wasn't until I realized this about, I think, 5 years or so ago, that contributed towards my depressive state. I was put on the pill because of my period, because of painful periods. But knowing the hormones that make up that pill can actually suppress, as a woman, can actually suppress your own body's way of making the estrogen and the estrogen. So it desensitizes your body, whilst the pill takes over with the synthetic form of whatever hormone is in that pill. And that's what was happening to me. So I became estrogen dominant. I don't know if you ladies have heard of that. Estrogen dominant is quite common in us women, especially if you live in a stressful state. And being estrogen dominant, you're more likely to have an ill states of mental health, ill states of emotional health as well. Okay, so we need to also look at our hormonal balances as women, our estrogen, our progesterone, and if you're on the pill and you're feeling these depressive and chronic states of stress, look at your pill as well. Okay, and also medication. There are different types of medication that you might be on that may also cause you to feel depressed and chronically stressed as well. Also, eating the foods, any foods that are depleted of nutrients. I mean, back in my 20s and 30s, I was eating whatever I wanted to, okay? Back then, that was when I was eating a McDonald's. Yes, I know. You wouldn't see me eating a McDonald's now unless it was really desperate. But I was eating whatever I wanted to back then, you know, takeaways, pizzas, McDonald's, whatever, okay? And because those things didn't have any nutrients in them, and a lot of processed foods as well, so my body wasn't getting the right nutrients in order to be able to heal itself and to be in that good state of health. Okay, so I was eating the sugary, sweet, high fat carb foods, the cakes, the biscuits, the chocolates, the whatever, because I could get away with it. But it wasn't doing my mental health any good. It wasn't doing my emotional health any good either. And then the next point is of the root cause is unprocessed emotions. So remember, I went through that period of racial trauma, which had stayed with me for, you know, until, you know, 2018, I would say, because 2018 was when I really sat down and looked at the root cause of why I burnt out age 40, why I had this health crisis in 2018. And really looking at the root cause. And then that's when my eyes were open to, well, Lillian, this is what is driving you. This is the condition that you're living according to. You're feeling insignificant. You still got these memories of you're no good. Nobody wants to know. We can't be with you because you're black, this, that, and the other. Because our cells, our physical cells in our bodies hold memory. So when we remember something, we don't remember it from our brain, even though it feels like we remember it from our brain. We actually remember it from our bodies. Yeah, our bodies hold the mental scars. Our bodies hold the physical scars. And that's why, like, for example, when people have their legs amputated, or I don't know, you lose something, say like you've lost a ring and you've worn it for years and years and years. And even though that ring is not on your finger or that leg is not there, you still get these phantom symptoms. You still feel like, oh, and then when you look down, oh yeah, my ring is not there. Or, oh no, my leg is not there. That's because the body still holds memory. Okay, so unless we deal with the unprocessed emotions of like the anger, the unforgiveness, the resentment, the shame, the guilt, etc., and we try to suppress them, that is what's going to continue to cause the stress, which eventually will also lead to depression and ill mental health as well. The other root cause is our thought life. A majority of us are no fault of our own. It's just the way we've been brought up in society. A majority of our thoughts are what we call insecure. We look at what other people are doing, we compare ourselves, we feel that, well, I should be doing that, I should be doing this. Or you've been told when you were growing up, well, you know, you go to school, you learn and achieve this, and if you haven't achieved it, you feel bad, you feel a sense of shame. These are all insecure thoughts. You feel, you know, and like I said, in the world of social media now, it's all smiles and happy-go-lucky, and I'm achieving this, and I'm successful, and I've made £1 million, and I've got gazillion 5 children, and I can still hold down a job, and I can still hold down my marriage, and I'm successful, and blah, blah, blah. But in real life, it's not like that. So we end up seeing these visions and things, and not even on social media, but on television and everyday life. And we feel compelled that we must live up to those expectations as well, because if we don't, then we're not a woman, then we're lesser than, we're not enough. And it's a case of, well, who are you? You know, if you're not doing that, if you're not wearing the latest labels, and if you're not wearing the latest shoes, and you're not got the latest handbag, or you've not got the latest phone, then you're a rubbish person, you know. And we as human beings, as our primal need, we need to belong. We need to belong in, you know, if you think back to our primate ancestors, that's how they survived. It was belonging in groups. That's our survival instinct, our natural survival instinct. No man is alone. So being by yourself or being ousted or outcasted is stressful, you know, and that's what I was facing when I was growing up. You know, kids will run off and be in their groups and stuff, and the majority of the time I was left by myself because I didn't belong, because I wasn't like them. Yeah, I didn't look like them, I didn't sound like them, etc., etc. And that carries on into our adult life as well. Okay, you see someone you're working alongside, well, that person's got a phenomenal business, and that person's got so many clients, and that person's making more money than me, and well, I want to be part of that group, and I want to be like them, or this person is wearing this or that, and whatever it is, you know. Or, well, this person's age 50 and I don't look as young as them, and I'm 50 and I look old like I'm 60. All these type of things that are insecure thoughts. So those are what creates our beliefs, okay? From our thoughts, which then creates our beliefs, which then creates our feelings, which are our emotions, okay? So your emotions of anger, joy, happiness, peace, calm, whatever it is, which then creates our actions. So obviously, if you're feeling calm, your actions will be calm. You'll do calm things. If you're feeling angry, your actions will be angry, okay? And then from your actions create your habits. So remember what I said, always look for the pattern of knowing what your root cause is and the symptoms. So what is your consistent habit? Do you have a habit of always flying off the handle when someone says something in a certain way to you? Do you find when maybe someone says something to you, or you can't achieve a certain thing, that you then retract, repress, and just go into fits of crying? Do you find that you have a habit of, if something looks too hard for you to do, that you're just like, oh, forget it, and you try to shut it off by sleeping or comforting yourself with comfort food? These are habits, and our habits then create our characters. So, for example, you can come across a woman. Okay, we were talking about independent women, yeah? So let's use that as an example. And I've had many of them come to see me where they come in and they're just all tough and hard and like, well, this is what I'm dealing with, and how quickly can it be fixed and stuff. And when I look through, when I get them to fill out a form, and I look through what they do, and I see that either like they're a CEO of an organization, or they're a lawyer, or whatever it is, they run their own business, whatever it is. And instantly now I know, because I know I can read people's bodies, and I know instantly what's going on, because I've got a gift for insight to see what's happening with people. And instantly I'm like, okay, well, first of all, let's see what is going on with you. And then when I explore and find out what's really happening with them, that tough exterior and that sort of meanness and that angry sort of look and a oppressive body language isn't them. It's a protective mechanism. And that is, they've used that, it's become a habit, which has then become a character. So they've been known to be the angry person, the angry woman, the independent woman, that you've got to be tough and angry and harsh in order to succeed in her industry, in order for her to survive. But really, that's not her. And I've had people say even things like, yeah, she's like that at work, but when she's outside of work or when she's at home, she's totally different. I don't know whether maybe you've come across people like that, people that you've worked with, and in a professional capacity, they're really like, and then outside of that and away from that, it's like they're like lambs, you know, they're like kittens. And you're like, is this the same person? But that's because it's become a habit, it's become part of their character, and it's become a safe valve, stress mechanism for them. It's a protectiveness, yeah? So, but this all stems from our thoughts, the way we're thinking and our self-belief. Does that make sense? I've shared so much. I hope it makes sense. If it doesn't, just pop a question in the box and I'm happy to answer it. So, looking at that, so in this order, we must deal with the root cause, not just the symptoms of stress, depression and burnout, because those are just the symptoms, all right? You've got to deal with, number one, the thoughts, okay? The root thoughts. What are you thinking and why are you thinking them? And where did these thoughts start? Where do they stem from? Where do they come from? Number two, deal with the unprocessed emotions. What emotions are you seeing or you recognizing that are coming up time and time and time again that you are suppressing, that you just think, oh, you know what, I'm just going to swallow it and get on and go? What is it? Is it anger? Is it unforgiveness? Is it resentment? Those need to be dealt with. Number three, deal with your nutrition. Okay, I know some of you love your takeaways and your pizzas and whatever, but check with yourself. When you eat certain foods, how do you feel after them? If you eat certain foods and then you feel tired, or you just, all of a sudden it feels like someone's just taking your energy away after eating certain foods, or you find that when you feel a certain way that you have a craving for certain foods, and also check when you eat certain foods or even drinks, you know, it could be fizzy drinks, sugary drinks, when you drink them, that you react differently. Yeah, I mean, it's just like alcohol. You know, people are sensitive to alcohol. They drink alcohol and they act a certain way. The same can be with sugary drinks as well. Because I had a sugar addiction, and when my sugar levels were really low, I would be highly irritable, and I would just fly off. It would be easy for me to fly off the handle very quickly. So my body constantly needed to be feeding myself sugar, because I had learned that was the safety valve, that was a protective mechanism, and that's what my body fed off. Okay, so look at nutrition, look at your belief system. Number 4, yeah, look at your belief system. And then number 5, learn to understand and tune into your body each day. You can do a check on yourself, you know, time yourself, put an alarm on every hour. Check yourself and say, how am I feeling? Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling low? If so, why? Where has that come from? Okay? So these are good things for us to do in order for us to preserve our mental health. Then number 3, we're looking at how can we remove the stigma and the shame and struggling and suffering the stress, the depression and burnout as women. Well, number 1, talk openly about how we're truly feeling. You know, it's very common for us to, you know, people say, how are you? And you say, oh, I'm fine. I'm okay. Yeah, I'm all right. We put the false smile on, but really inside we're like, oh my goodness, I just feel terrible. I feel awful. You know, I can't wait for the day to be over. I'm feeling really down, or I'm just having a bad day, you know, and feeling free to be able to say that. You know, that's what I desire for all of us, is to talk openly about how we are with our mental health state. You know, if we're feeling, you know, that, well, you know, I know I'm just not feeling right. Talk to somebody. You know, you don't have to come out on public and do like on social media if you're not brave enough to do that. No, you can do, you know, phone your friend, speak to a family member, um, get counseling. You know, there are people out there who you can talk to about how you're feeling. You don't have to suffer in silence. And I always say this, I desire for us women to be able to talk openly about our mental health, about our emotional health, just like how I hear women talk about their pelvic floor muscles in public. I was out in the park the other day, and I heard these women talking about, these two women, these two mothers talking about their pelvic floor muscles. And it was, I kind of chuckled to myself because I thought, wow, many years ago when I was teaching in health and fitness in my classes and teaching women about their pelvic floor muscles, it was like, ooh, ooh. It was like, it was shameful. It's like, oh, you don't want to talk about that too loudly, you know, even in the changing room. But now, you know, people are talking about it in public. And that is what I desire for us women to be more open about, speaking about how we're feeling with our mental health. And like I said, you don't have to come on social media and broadcast it to people, because sadly some people can't handle that, and some people, it's just not, it would just go over their head, and you know, anyway. So there's that. And number two is get help. Don't suffer alone. Like I said, go for counselling, speak to your doctor if you know that you're, you know, you're chronically stressed, or you just feel like, I just can't handle life. Reach out for help. There are professionals there who can help you. Don't suffer alone. Seriously, don't. I remember some of my clients, it was a couple of clients that they were teachers, and we were talking about stress, because obviously, you know, they come to see me, and straight away I could see that they're stressed in their bodies. And so I was asking them, so, you know, how's your job, your work, blah, blah, blah. You know, can you speak to your boss about this? Oh, no. They said, no, we can't tell them that we're stressed. And I was like, well, why not? What? They would think that we can't cope, that we can't manage the job. And I said, yeah, but you can't. You know, the fact was that they couldn't cope. They couldn't. But they were suppressing it. They were holding it down until they got their promotion, or until they retired, or until whatever it was that they were working towards, because of this shame, of this stigma that, you know, if you say that you're stressed, or you're feeling depressed, or you're feeling down, that you would be shamed, you would be shunned, you would be outcasted, you would be pulled up for an appraisal and kind of suggested like, well, you know, it looks like you can't quite cope with the job, so, you know, we're thinking of laying you off or whatever. And many women work and live under that fear. And it's not good. It's not how we should be living. So please be open. Please talk openly about this. And number four, how can we show kindness, you know, with regards to our mental and emotional health? First thing is to show kindness to ourselves. We're taught to show kind to each other. You know, our parents always say to us, you know, now be kind to such and such, and be kind. But what about showing kindness to ourselves? We can't give out what we don't give to ourselves. You know, we'll just dry ourselves and deplete ourselves. So first port of call is to show ourselves kindness, and showing yourself kindness is self-care. That is the real self-care. So look at yourself in the mirror, smile at yourself, laugh to yourself, tell yourself jokes, you know, you know, wear that perfume that you're saving for a special occasion, wear those clothes that you'll wear, you know, you're saving, eat that food that you know is good for you, rest, you know, rest, ladies. The number of ladies that I come across who do not rest because they think, well, let me do this first and let me do the housework and then I'll rest. That's not being kind to yourself. That's being kind to yourself conditionally. Well, you know, you're using kindness or self-care as a reward. Well, I've worked hard, you know, so I'm going to self-care now. And sadly, what we're seeing is most people's reward of self-care is once they've reached the position of burnout or exhaustion, then they could start showing themselves kindness or caring for themselves. No. Let us be the first port of call. We're the ones that matter. So let us be the first point of call in order to show kindness to, before we then are able to show kindness to others. Because when you treat yourself well, you're in that better place to then be kind and show kindness and care for others. Okay. And yeah, and stop being hard on ourselves. We need to stop giving ourselves conditions that, you know, we've got to show up in certain ways. We've got to do this because it's expected of us. But yet we know it's causing us stress. It's making us unhappy. It's harming our health. We're feeling tired and exhausted. Ladies, it stops now. We have a choice. We simply just need to communicate to people and say, well, no, I'm not going to do that because I know if I do this, it's going to affect me. I had to learn saying no. In 2018, I had to say no to a lot of things and people were annoyed. I had, the time that I'd coming out of hospital, I had so many speaking engagements and I just had to cancel them. And some people were like, oh, you know, we've hired the horn and we've paid for this and we've done this. And people were angry. And I said, well, you know what? My health and my well-being comes first. And through doing that, I was teaching myself that I mattered. Because if I was to go into hospital, maybe they wouldn't even pick up the phone to see how I was doing or even, you know, send me a message or whatever. But what mattered to me was me showing up as me being able to function as the person I am today. So learning to say no to the things that we know are causing us oppression, affecting our health and well-being. Okay. And gift yourself kindness unconditionally. Gift yourself that time of rest. Gift yourself that me time. Gift yourself that permission to say no, because that's what's going to help you. And I'm, you know, what I shared with you ladies is what I practice, and I'm in a much better place for doing all of this now. Using my own, what I call my own soul medicine, using my own protocol of de-stress and reset. I couldn't be here talking to you if I genuinely was not doing all of what I've said for myself, if I wasn't looking at the root cause of my depression and the burnout and the chronic stress. And I'm happy to say that I no longer suffer with depression. That's gone. The chronic stress has gone. The burnout was an episode in my life, and I'm not suffering with any ill effects of that now, because I'm living life in a much better state, and that all starts from here. It all starts from making that decision, realizing that you've got a choice to say, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. And things are going to be different. Now, family, friends, colleagues, industry colleagues, they may not agree with you, and they may not be with you and say, what are you talking about? No, this is what we do and this is how we do it. But you know how you feel in your body. You know how you feel in your mind. You know how you feel when you wake up first thing in the morning and how you feel when you go to bed at night. You're the one who's in your body and in your mind state 24/7. So it's time for you to be truthful with you. It really is. And when you are, then you will see a new world open up for you. In this time of lockdown, I'm hearing, I've had conversations with various people, and people who are even saying, you know, I don't want to go back to the normal. What people talk about, go back to normal. I don't want to go back to rushing anymore. I don't want to go back to that feeling stressed, because people have had a chance to rest now, and they're realizing how tired they've actually been, and the work that they've been doing, and how that's been oppressing them and making them feel ill. And now they've got time to cook. Now they've got time to look after themselves. And people are saying that they're questioning and asking, you know, do I really want to go back to that job? Do I really want to continue doing business in that way? And people are starting to have their eyes open. So, and you too can do the same. So that's it, ladies. That's my talk for today. If you've got any questions, pop them in. If you've got questions for me and you think, no, Lillian, I don't want to post it on here. I'd rather post it to you direct. Then you can send me a personal message via the page. You can send me a personal message via my personal profile. Those of you who are friends with me on Facebook, you can send me an email to liveinwellbeing@gmail.com. That's liveinwellbeing@gmail.com. You can send me an email there. If you want to speak about what you're going through and you want to shift out of that, you can book in a free consultation as well. That's absolutely free. Or if you've realized that through the symptoms that I've spoken about, the root causes that I've spoken about, you said, you know what, Lillian, a lot of what you shared really resonates with me, and I'm going through that and I can't cope, and I really need to do something, and you want to do a de-stress and reset session, then send me a message or send me an email and let's book a time to have a chat. All right. Thank you, ladies, for joining me this evening. I trust that you've received a lot. I've shared a lot, and I do share from my heart, as most of you know who've come on my lives. I share stuff from the heart, even though I've got my notes, but I have to have my notes to make sure that I stick to time, and I have gone over an hour on Facebook. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful evening. And if you need to listen back on the replay, do so. Those of you who do watch the replay, remember to do #replay, and any questions that you've got, put it in the comments and I'm happy to answer them for you. So until next time, until the next live, I will be posting stuff on the page still. Keep safe, keep well, look after yourselves. Hey Mary, I didn't see you. Oh, there's another Mary. There's another Mary. I just saw a pop up. I didn't see you there. Thank you for joining. So I've got two Marys on the call today. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me. It's been great. Look after yourselves, and I'll catch you again on another live. Take care.